In a nation often defined by division, where headlines are filled with stories of political gridlock and social unrest, moments of true unity can feel almost impossible to imagine. Yet, against this backdrop, a rare and powerful wave of unity has emerged from the Supreme Court, sending ripples across the country. The court, which is so often portrayed as deeply divided along ideological lines, recently delivered 6 major rulings. Remarkably, 5 of them were unanimous, with all 9 justices in agreement. These landmark decisions, covering issues ranging from presidential power to gun rights and beyond, have sent shockwaves through both the legal and political worlds, capturing the attention of the nation. For perhaps the first time in years, the justices spoke with one voice, setting aside their differences to transcend partisan divides and reinforce the court's vital role as the guardian of the Constitution. This remarkable consensus isn't just a matter for legal scholars or politicians. It touches the lives of every American, shaping our fundamental rights and defining the boundaries of government power. The cases at the heart of these rulings weren't obscure technicalities. They addressed high-stakes disputes that impact the core of public life, from the limits of executive authority to the rights of individuals. By finding common ground on such contentious and complex topics, the justices have provided the nation with clear, decisive guidance at a time when clarity is desperately needed. This newfound unity not only strengthens the court's authority, but also helps ensure that the law is applied fairly and consistently across all 50 states, reinforcing trust in our legal system. Join us as we explore how these historic rulings are reshaping the legal landscape, reaffirming the rights that define us as a nation, and reminding us of the power of consensus at the highest level. To understand the Supreme Court's recent rulings, we need to revisit 2 pillars of the Bill of Rights, the Second and Fourth Amendments. The Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms, a right the court has affirmed for individuals, though its limits remain hotly debated. The Fourth Amendment shields us from unreasonable searches and seizures, requiring government searches to be justified and often backed by a warrant. In the digital age, these protections are more complex, raising questions about privacy, surveillance, and government reach. Both amendments balance liberty with public safety, and the Supreme Court's job is to interpret these lines for modern challenges. Every case is a chance to clarify where individual rights end and government power begins. The recent unanimous decisions provide rare, unified answers to these pressing questions. They reinforce core protections for all Americans and set a stable precedent for our fundamental rights. Supreme Court cases often begin as real-world disputes that ripple across the nation. Recent unanimous decisions arose from conflicts over presidential tariffs, government pressure on advocacy groups, and lawsuits against gun makers. For example, businesses challenged presidential tariffs as an overreach of executive power. The NRA accused a New York official of using her authority to silence their message, raising vital First Amendment questions. Mexico sued U.S. gun manufacturers, testing whether federal protections shield them from foreign lawsuits. These cases arrived amid intense national debates, demanding clear legal guidance. The court's unified voice aimed to settle these disputes on constitutional principles, not politics. One major ruling tested the boundaries of presidential power. In Campaña de Acero v. United States, the court unanimously curbed the president's authority to impose tariffs without Congress. The justices ruled that regulating commerce and levying taxes is Congress's job, not the president's, even during a national emergency. Chief Justice Roberts wrote, "A national emergency cannot unlock powers the Constitution withholds from the president. This decision blocks future presidents from using emergencies as loopholes for major economic policy. It ensures Congress, not the White House, debates and votes on trade policy, making the process more transparent and accountable. The ruling draws on historic precedent and reinforces the separation of powers. The president enforces laws, Congress creates them. This is a powerful check on executive overreach and a victory for constitutional balance." In National Rifle Association v. Volo, the court unanimously protected free speech from government coercion. A New York official had pressured banks and insurers to cut ties with the NRA because of its advocacy. The court ruled this was unconstitutional coercion. Government cannot use its power to silence disfavored voices, even indirectly. Justice Sotomayor wrote, "The First Amendment prohibits officials from using their office to silence speakers they disfavor. This decision protects all groups, not just the NRA, from subtle government pressure. It sets a clear boundary against jawboning when officials nudge companies to censor or deplatform. The ruling shields private entities from government manipulation and preserves a free marketplace of ideas. It's a modern defense against government overreach in the digital age. The court's message: the government's power stops where free speech begins. The court delivered another unanimous decision in Smith & Wesson Brands versus Mexico, upholding the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, PLCAA. Mexico sued U.S. gunmakers for violence within its borders, but the court ruled that PLCAA shields manufacturers from liability for crimes committed with their products. Justice Gorsuch wrote, "The PLCAA was enacted to protect firearm manufacturers from liability for the criminal misuse of their products. This protection stands, even when the plaintiff is a foreign government." The decision closes a loophole that could have exposed gunmakers to endless lawsuits and threatens their ability to operate. The ruling doesn't block lawsuits for defects or illegal sales, but it prevents lawfare against lawful businesses. The justices agreed. Companies that follow the law shouldn't be blamed for others' crimes. This provides stability and predictability for the firearms industry and Second Amendment rights. The court's consensus extended to religious freedom and workplace fairness. In Catholic Charities Bureau versus Wisconsin, the justices ruled that serving the public doesn't strip a religious group of its protections. Justice Barrett wrote, "The government does not get to dictate what it means to be religious." The decision protects faith-based organizations' ability to serve all without penalty. In Ames versus Ohio, the court clarified that all employees, majority or minority, are protected equally from workplace discrimination. The justices struck down a higher burden of proof for majority group plaintiffs, reaffirming that civil rights laws protect everyone. These rulings reinforce fairness and religious autonomy under the law. The court sent a clear message: discrimination is wrong, no matter who the victim is. Legal experts across the spectrum see these unanimous decisions as a powerful rebuttal to claims that the court is just another political branch. Instead, they argue, these rulings demonstrate a renewed commitment to the rule of law and the foundational principles of the Constitution, regardless of the political climate or public pressure. Sarah Isger, a legal analyst, says, "This string of 9-0 rulings shows the justices are deeply engaged with the law, not politics." She points out that such consensus among justices with diverse backgrounds is rare, and it sends a clear message that the court is prioritizing legal reasoning over partisan interests. On presidential power, experts agree the Campaña de Acero decision reasserts Congress's authority and curbs executive overreach. This landmark case is seen as a reminder that the separation of powers remains a cornerstone of American democracy, ensuring that no single branch can dominate the others. Free speech advocates hail NRA versus Vullo as a vital protection against modern censorship. The decision is being celebrated as a safeguard for individuals and organizations who might otherwise be silenced by government pressure or regulatory threats. David French notes, "The government can't use its regulatory might to silence critics." He emphasizes that this ruling sets a precedent, making it clear that freedom of expression cannot be undermined by indirect government action. The Smith & Wesson ruling is seen as ending creative attempts to sue gunmakers out of existence. Legal scholars believe this decision will have a lasting impact on how liability is assigned in the firearms industry, potentially shaping future litigation strategies. The Catholic Charities decision is a straightforward defense of religious autonomy. It affirms that religious organizations have the right to operate according to their beliefs, free from undue government interference. As one law professor put it, the court is telling the government to step back and let religious groups be religious. This sentiment is echoed by many who see the ruling as a reaffirmation of the nation's commitment to religious liberty. These decisions provide stability and reinforce the First and Second Amendments. By upholding these core rights, the court is sending a message that constitutional protections remain strong, even in turbulent times. The court's message: the Constitution's core protections are not up for political negotiation. In the long run, these rulings are expected to shape legal debates and public policy for years to come, reminding all branches of government of their constitutional limits and responsibilities. In a time of rapid change and deepening division across the nation, when headlines are filled with conflict and uncertainty, the Supreme Court's recent display of unity stands out as a powerful message of stability, continuity, and shared constitutional values that transcend political differences. The court's decisions are not just abstract legal theories, they directly impact your rights in daily life, shaping everything from the price of goods at your local store to your freedom of speech. your right to practice religion, and your ability to express your beliefs without fear. The court's essential role is to ensure that the government, no matter who is in power, follows the Constitution and respects the limits it sets. In these landmark cases, the justices reached unanimous agreement, a rare and significant moment in our history. The justices pushed back against executive overreach, defended the core principle of free expression, and upheld the laws thoughtfully passed by Congress, reinforcing the balance of powers. This rare consensus among the justices demonstrates that even in times of national division, fundamental legal questions can be settled with clarity, wisdom, and a commitment to the rule of law. The rights protected in these rulings, speech, privacy, faith, and the ability to participate in lawful commerce, are not just words on paper. They are living principles that must be understood, valued, and defended by every generation of Americans. With these decisions, the Supreme Court has just issued a powerful and timely defense of these essential rights. The ultimate message is clear. Be vigilant, stay informed, participate in civic life, and cherish the freedoms the Constitution guarantees, for they are the foundation of our democracy. The court has reaffirmed that promise in a clear, united voice, reminding us that our system can still work as intended. Now it's up to all of us, citizens, students, families, and leaders, to ensure that voice continues to ring true, protecting liberty and justice for years to come.